DPMTO has laid out MHA's strategy to keep Singapore safe and secure. Let me now elaborate on our efforts to ensure the safety of our neighborhoods and roads, and also address some specific queries from members. Madam, as you've heard, the overall crime rate declined to 549 per 100,000 population, which is a 6% decrease from 2012, and it continues a favorable trend since 2005. To sustain this, we will continue to invest in our frontline policing capabilities, harness technology, while building on our partnership with the community. Community policing is a key aspect of our efforts to keep neighborhoods safe. Many members have spoken on this, and Mr. Hari Kumar has commented on its efficacy and merits in the context of other jurisdictions. Mr. Edwin Tong and Mr. Arthur Fong has asked about the progress of the community policing system, or COPS. To strengthen our frontline policing capabilities, we have been implementing COPS in phases since 2012. To date, 20 of our 35 neighborhood police centers have adopted the COPS model. And under this approach, a community policing unit and a crime strike force is established at each neighborhood police center to reach out to the community and to tackle local crime concerns. Our community policing unit officers regularly engage residents to forge closer ties, to raise crime prevention awareness, and to assist and support victims of crimes. Their outreach efforts have generally been well received by members of the public. And the familiarity with the local operating terrain has also enabled our crime strike force officers to be more effective in detecting and deterring crime. For example, officers from Clementi NPC relied on their experience and knowledge of the neighborhood and a detailed crime pattern analysis to solve, within 3 days, a case of serial theft of television sets in November last year. We will continue to allocate more resources to the community policing scheme in the second half of 2014. COPS will be implemented at 8 more NPCs in Ang Mo Kio North, Bedok South, Bukit Batok, Bukit Merah West, Bukit Panjang, Kampung Java, Queenstown, and Yishun North. We expect the COPS system to be introduced in all NPCs by 2015. Ms. Tin Pei Ling and Mr. Pritam Singh have asked for an update on the program to deploy police cameras in HDB estates. To date, police cameras have been installed in over 2,000 HDB blocks and multi-story car parks across all 16 town councils and the 87 wards that they cover. Police cameras will be rolled out to 1,000 more blocks and multi-story car parks by the end of this year, and we expect all 10,000 HDB blocks and MSCPs to be covered by 2016. Harnessing such technology is another important element in our efforts to enhance police's ability to fight crime. Over a period of 21 months, footage from police cameras have been used to solve 48 crime cases and generate investigative leads for a further 195 cases. On Mr. Singh's specific query, the police is willing to share footage from its cameras with town councils where it is relevant for investigations into offences under the town council's purview. And the Home Team will continue to seek new ways to leverage on technology as a force multiplier. One new initiative that the police is working on is the use of body-worn cameras by frontline officers. The experience of police forces in countries like the UK and Canada indicate that such cameras and their recordings have been useful in deterring crime, calming rowdy members of the public, and providing valuable investigative leads. Police will commence a pilot on the use of body-worn cameras for frontline policing in the middle of this year. Madam, we remain steadfast in our efforts to strengthen community partnerships. And as DPM has mentioned, more residents are stepping forward to partner the police, as evident from the 36% increase in Citizens on Patrol membership from 7,000 odd members in December 2012 to 9,600 odd members in December 2013. And police have also extended this partnership to other community stakeholders. For example, Jurong Police Division collaborated with dormitory operators, employers, and the Ministry of Manpower to launch a community safety and security program to promote crime prevention and safety and security awareness among foreign workers. Madam, let me now turn to some specific issues that have been raised by members. Mr. Christopher D'Souza asked for an update on the unlicensed money lending situation. As we've heard, the number of reported unlicensed money lending and related harassment cases fell to around 8,300 in 2013. This is a decrease of 2,500 cases, or 23% from 2012. Since 2009, there has been a cumulative decline of over 55% in such cases, and there's also been a shift in the harassment tactics of loan shark syndicates. For instance, harassment cases with damage to property fell by almost a third, 2,461 cases over the past year. This is the combined result of the tough laws that we have enacted. I see that they've skipped on to the next slide on road safety. They're preempting me, but we'll come back to that. This is the combined result of the tough laws that we have enacted, the police's sustained enforcement effort complemented by the use of technology such as CCTVs, and public education and community partnerships. Police will also press ahead with the community outreach efforts to educate the public, especially the financially vulnerable, on the perils of borrowing from loan sharks, the availability of legal channels, and to stay vigilant against loan sharking activities. On the enforcement front, police has detected an increasing incidence of debtors assisting unlicensed money lending syndicates by allowing their bank accounts to be used for transactions. To curb their illicit operations, police is working with banks on a 3-year pilot trial to terminate the ATM and internet banking facilities of persons who are convicted of or administered with a stern warning in lieu of prosecution for assisting unlicensed money lending syndicates. They will be denied such services for a year, after which the banks will have to assess whether those services are to be reinstated. And as highlighted by Mr. D'Souza, unlicensed money lending tends to involve organized crime syndicates, which are transnational in their activities. MHA is working on legislation targeting organized crime that will strengthen our enforcement efforts against the various levels of unlicensed money lending syndicates, including those who are based overseas but conducting their illegal or unlawful activities in Singapore. Ms. Sylvia Lim spoke on investigations into serious sexual crimes, in particular the length of investigations and the prosecution rate. Madam, investigations into such offenses are delicate and inherently complex by their very nature. And where it entails the word of one party against another, the challenge for the police investigators lies in finding objective evidence to prove the guilt or otherwise of the accused beyond reasonable doubt. To this end, as part of investigations, police record statements from the victims, witnesses, and defendants. Exhibits, if any, would be sent for forensic examinations. Polygraph examinations may also be conducted in some cases on a voluntary basis and with written consent. Time is also needed for any additional investigative inquiries and the preparation of medical and forensic reports. And the DPP may also conduct further interviews with the victims and witnesses. As Ms. Lim has noted from a previous reply, typically police take 12 months on average to conclude investigations into serious sexual crimes. And this duration can vary. It can be shorter, it might be longer, and that depends on the complexity of the case. And as a point of reference, it is comparable in duration, the investigation process, to, say, murder cases, which, like serious sexual crimes, are also tried in the High Court. Upon the conclusion of investigations, as with all criminal investigations, the Attorney General's chambers will make the final prosecutorial decision based on the facts and circumstances of the case and the strength of the evidence. And that will determine the outcome, whether it's to be a prosecution, a stern warning, or no further action to be taken. So it is the police does its part of the work, and then the AGC will have to evaluate the evidence and the circumstances in deciding on the path forward. Where a victim requires more specialized support, police works closely with agencies like the Ministry of Social and Family Development, Ministry of Education, especially for young victims, the National Crime Prevention Council, and crisis support groups like family service centers, and medical social workers to provide additional victim care. Police is also working on a pilot to implement a new victim care cadre program, and under this, members of the public will be trained by police psychologists as victim care officers to provide direct moral support to victims of such crime. Ms. Denise Pua has asked that the appropriate adult scheme be formalized, and as she has noted, the interagency committee led by the Attorney General's Chambers concluded a pilot recently of this scheme at Bedok Police Division, and they are in the process of evaluating the results. The preliminary feedback from the stakeholders has been positive. The interagency committee overseeing this program will assess how this scheme can be implemented, as the member has mentioned, across all police land divisions for the benefit of vulnerable groups such as young persons and those with intellectual disabilities. And this review is expected to be completed in the coming months. Mr. Christopher D'Souza is asked for an update on the public consultation exercise on the proposed framework to restrict remote gambling. I recall that Ms. Denise Pua raised this at last year's COS as well. MHA had earlier announced that we were developing a regulatory framework that would include blocking measures and laws for enforcement against facilitators, intermediaries, and providers of remote gambling services. The Ministry conducted a public consultation on the proposed framework in November last year and January this year, and we received feedback from industry stakeholders, community and grassroots organizations, religious and social service groups, as well as members of the public. The majority of respondents supported the move to restrict remote gambling and for government to implement blocking measures. However, there were mixed views on whether a limited form of remote gambling should be permitted. Some called for a complete ban on remote gambling. Others felt that there was a need for a tightly regulated, authorized entity that could divert demand away from illegal and unregulated operators, somewhat akin to the Hong Kong model, where a locally based not-for-profit operator is allowed to offer a limited range of non-casino style products on online platforms. The Ministry will take the next few months to further study these issues and the experience of other jurisdictions before arriving at an appropriate set of actions, including legislation. Madam Chair, I now turn to road safety, raised by Dr. Janil Puthucheary, Mr. Baey Yam Keng, and Mr. Alvin Yeo. As members have noted, there was an 11% reduction in the number of accidents with fatalities or injuries from 7,188 cases in 2012 to 6,426 cases in 2013. The number of injured road users also decreased by almost 12%. The number of fatalities declined by 5%. Notwithstanding this decrease, the fact is that such accident-related casualties can and should be prevented. We must therefore persist and persevere with our efforts to improve road safety. And this was the impetus for the launch of the Safer Roads Singapore Action Plan last year. Through Safer Roads Singapore, we aim to foster a culture of safe and courteous road use with a three-pronged strategy of enforcement, education, and engagement. On enforcement, we have deployed auxiliary police officers and an additional 70 traffic police officers on our roads. The objective is to remind road users to continue to use our roads safely, responsibly, and to deter poor behavior. Enforcement operations in 2013 resulted in about a 10% increase in the number of traffic violations that were detected compared to 2012. We have also begun rolling out new digital red light and speed cameras around the island. This will complement the efforts of officers on the ground and enhance our ability to detect and identify vehicles that speed or run red lights. The first 5 digital red light cameras began operations earlier this month. By the first half of 2015, a total of almost 260 additional digital red light and speed cameras would have been installed. To complement our enforcement efforts, Traffic Police has also strengthened road safety education for various groups of road users, and in particular the more vulnerable. One such group is the motorcyclists, who constitute nearly half of all injuries and fatalities on our roads. Since June last year, almost 3,000 learner motorcycle riders have undergone the new compulsory expressway familiarization ride course. It aims to help new motorcyclists become more familiar with riding on expressways and to pick up useful tips for safer riding. Riders who have gone through the EFR course are much less likely to cause or be involved in accidents on the expressways. This is based on a pilot study that was done by TP previously. The community and industry also play an important role in ensuring road safety, and to this end, Traffic Police has continued to engage the community and industry partners to champion a culture of road safety. So, for example, the Singapore Road Safety Council has launched the annual Singapore Road Safety Award to recognize industry fleet owners who are committed to improving road safety within their companies. The inaugural award was presented to PSA Corporation for putting in place a comprehensive framework to instill strong road safety culture amongst its drivers. But this is not just confined to large companies. For example, LTH Logistics, a chemical logistics and distribution company with about 80 drivers, has taken a proactive approach to ensure the safety of its drivers and also our roads. All their vehicles are equipped with GPS devices that allow the company to monitor the driver's speed. Those who adopt good driving habits are rewarded, and I would say that these are good examples and well worth emulating by all other companies and with respect to ensuring the safety of their employees. The Traffic Police will also be launching a new one-stop online portal on the 15th of March. This portal will allow members of the public to report traffic violations as well as examples of courteous and considerate driving. Members of the public will thus be able to play a part in improving our road use norms by providing feedback on both positive and negative road conduct. Madam Chair, even though the overall road safety situation has improved, some specific groups of drivers warrant closer attention. And Mr. Alvin Yu and Mr. Bayam Kim have identified heavy vehicle drivers and more generally vocational drivers as one such group. As Mr. Bay has pointed out, vocational drivers do spend long hours on the road, often in large vehicles, and they also tend to ferry passengers or goods in the course of their work. So it's important to ensure that these drivers have the requisite competencies, driving competencies, and safety mindset. One part of this is enforcement. So Traffic Police has stepped up enforcement efforts against heavy vehicles. Last year, Traffic Police mounted significantly more operations against heavy vehicles as compared to 2012. And we've also tightened the inspection requirements for heavy vehicles caught speeding. Since the implementation of this measure in November 2013, more than 190 vehicles that were caught for speeding were required to go for additional inspections. And this enhanced inspection regime, because it does disrupt operations for companies, that coupled with the demerit points and fines imposed for speeding offences will serve to emphasize the importance of safe driving habits among heavy vehicle drivers and, importantly, their employers. In addition, we are working with key industry players as well as government agencies like the Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Manpower on a comprehensive study of the causes of such accidents and to identify specific initiatives which can help improve road safety amongst vocational drivers. These could include vehicular technological solutions such as the in-vehicle cameras that Mr. Bay suggested. This collaboration is spearheaded by the Safer Roads Industry Task Force, which is co-chaired by Senior Minister of State Mr. Masagos Zulkifli and Parliamentary Secretary Associate Professor Muhammad Faisal Ibrahim. So not quite arrowing it, as the member has suggested, but his valuable suggestions will be referred to this committee for consideration. Finally, let me address some members' comments on the role of auxiliary police officers and private operators. As DPMTO has highlighted, our operational demands have grown over the years, and they will continue to do so. In response, we have been strengthening our home team agencies with more officers. Over the past 5 years, the number of home team officers has grown by an annual average of about 2%. But there are limits to how much we can grow the home team, not least because we need to balance the increasing operational demands with the high standards that we expect of our home team officers. And that in turn translates into selection criteria when you're recruiting. Hence, apart from harnessing technology, auxiliary police officers and private operators play an important complementary role in supporting the work of the home team. Today, APFs and other private operators support us in performing specific functions in various areas, such as the facilities protection, checkpoint security, inmate escort, and the provision of emergency ambulance services. This allows home team officers to focus on duties and situations requiring more specialized skills or a higher level of judgment and decision making. I think we have to be clear, APOs are not a substitute for regular home team officers. They are a complement to our home team effort. Ms. Lim has said that we should look at best sourcing rather than outsourcing. And I agree with her, but I want to observe that first, by advocating best sourcing, she already admits the requirement that there's a need to look at some external augmentation of the home team resources. And secondly, the APFs are appointed under the powers of the Police Force Act. So this is not a general tender exercise where we then go for the lowest bidding entity. This is actually a strategic, calibrated move as a result of a recognition of the need to find a continuum of capabilities in our system to meet rising operational needs. And the APOs and APFs are formed and officers appointed as a result of that. I would also add that the number of APOs as a proportion of home team officers has remained relatively modest and stable over the past 5 years. The member cited examples of Woodlands checkpoint in 20%, and that is so because when you look at an operational environment like Woodlands, you can see why there is a need for perhaps more supplementation from APOs. But if I give you an aggregate picture, the Ministry of Home Affairs collectively contracts about 1,700 APOs. And you compare that with the home team uniform uniform body establishment, that's about 18,000 plus. In other words, it's about 9%. So when the member says we should have a limit, I agree with her, yes, there should be a limit, but I think at these current levels, in fact, I think the agencies are exercising the discretion to use APOs in a very responsible and calibrated way. Mr. Singh asked about the nationality of the APOs. I think in general, I would make the point that first, APOs, if you look at the general distribution between foreigners and local, it is not dissimilar to the general involvement of foreigners in our workforce. And about 2/3 are locals, Singaporeans and PRs, and the rest are from other nationalities, specifically Malaysian. Even as we work closely with the APFs and private operators, the home team agencies have to ensure that the APOs and private operators perform to the required standards in support of the home team's mission. I think this is critical. APOs are therefore typically deployed under the supervision of home team officers and operate in accordance with procedures stipulated by the home team. Ultimately, home team agencies and their officers maintain overall responsibility and accountability for the outcomes. So it is in our interest to ensure that APOs receive the necessary training to effectively perform their duties. Today, APOs receive both basic and specialized training. All APOs are required to pass a basic training course. In addition to this, they also undergo specialized training for the type of duties that they are assigned. For example, APOs who are deployed to patrol foreign worker congregation grounds are briefed on the operating terrain and given training to deal with the common scenarios that they may encounter in the course of their duties. So I want to assure Mr. Preetham Singh that a structured training program is in place to ensure that APOs are able to meet operational needs. And this training is targeted at their special duties. Whatever duties they're assigned, they should be equipped for that, and that's the purpose behind it. And the training is reviewed on an ongoing basis by the home team agencies to ensure that APOs continue to be able to support our officers as the operating environment evolves. The question was raised whether there's scope for APOs to tap into some of the home team training, and the answer is yes. A lot of it is focused on, in particular, training the trainers or training the commanders of APOs so that they are in turn able to create the right culture and the right mindset amongst their officers down the line. The auxiliary police forces also conduct regular audits and inspections on the ground to ensure that their own officers meet the required standards of performance in their duties. Drills, exercises, and red teaming are also conducted to improve APO's operational effectiveness. The police independently conducts its own audits and inspections of APFs and their operations. Ms. Sylvia Lim asked about the role of APOs in road traffic accident investigations. I want to be clear, APOs do not conduct road traffic investigations. Only traffic police officers conduct investigations. The Land Transport Authority engages APOs as traffic marshals to manage traffic accident scenes. This initiative was started in late 2007 between LTA and traffic police in order to expedite the clearance of accident scenes and promote faster restoration of smooth traffic flow. And even then, the APOs are not activated by LTA in all accident cases. They're mainly deployed for incidents such as those in expressways and tunnels, which can affect traffic efficiency substantially. So that's really the context. When the LTA APOs arrive at the scene, they help to cordon off the affected lanes, direct traffic to ease congestion, and where necessary, preserve evidence for traffic police's investigations. TP will usually not conduct investigations into minor accidents where there is no injury caused to the parties. The parties will be advised to report the accident to their respective insurers promptly. TP does investigate accidents where injury or fatality is caused. For such cases, the LTA traffic marshals may facilitate the investigation process by noting down basic preliminary details, such as sketching of the accident scene and vehicle damage. In these cases, where an investigation by TP is required, the traffic marshals are to relay this information that they have gathered to the traffic police officer in charge of the case as soon as possible. And this includes contact information of involved parties and potential witnesses, such as Ms. Lim. As part of the investigations, traffic police may contact the involved parties or potential witnesses for further information. However, if the facts are clear or where sufficient evidence has been obtained, TP can take appropriate action against the parties involved without necessarily contacting all the potential witnesses for input. Traffic police trains and assesses these APOs in their roles as traffic marshals prior to their deployment. There are also established operating protocols to guide the traffic marshals in executing their tasks professionally. TP takes the delegation of its functions very seriously, and these processes are reviewed regularly to ensure that they remain relevant and robust. Madam, I've taken some time to elaborate on this regime which we have with respect to the use of APOs in general and specifically in traffic, because first I understand and share the intent behind members' comments on APOs and private operators. But it's also important to understand, as Mr. Hari Kumar has pointed out, that we need to strike a balance between the use of APOs and private operators to complement the home team in meeting operational demands, whilst upholding the high standards expected of the home team and its officers. So it is a dynamic environment that we are in, and the home team agencies work with the APO auxiliary police forces and other complementary entities in order to ensure they can achieve the best outcome in terms of safety and security. And we will regularly review the regulation, deployment, and training of APOs to ensure that they have the skills and training to be able to support the home team effectively. So, Madam Chair, if I may conclude, MHA will continue to strengthen our operational capabilities, maintain a tough enforcement stance against crime, and continue with our efforts to keep our roads safe. Our operating environment is dynamic, and we will constantly review and adapt our strategies in response to the evolving challenges. The support of community and Singaporeans has been a key pillar of the Home Team's efforts, and we will broaden and deepen our partnership with the community to keep Singapore safe and secure.